Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
The International Court of Justice is a court that was created to solve problems of disputes of any nature. But this court was created on the basis that times could change and the constitutionalism and the mandate could also change. The International Court of Justice has never changed. In this court, there is no chamber for appeal. There is no chamber for amicus curiae, for people to bring in their opinions in terms of individuals or organizations that are hurt in one way or the other, or good opinions that could shape the outcome of the findings or the cases filed there. This court, therefore, remains one of the most obnoxious, one of the most opaque institutions whose findings we don't know who decides and how the decisions are taken, how stakeholders are supposed to recourse to a remedy, where to get a remedy, we don't know. A court has no chambers, no lower chamber, no upper chamber for appeal. It has itself as a final court of jurisdiction around the world. Are the people of the world going to say, is Somalia and Kenya going into this court, seeing the obstacles that they will cause for the region? Those are the questions I ask. And I want my viewers and those listening to this tape to understand that Africa needs to solve the problem in an African way. There is no other way to solve the problem of Somalia and Kenya amicably than sitting on a table to have a discussion, find ways of resolving the conflict that has brought us to not talking terms. But Somalia seems to be pushed by external darker forces to go and dismember the unity that we have in the Great Lakes region and the Horn of Africa. ICJ as a court is an institution that is very opaque, very dark in its sense of darkness, that you don't know how decisions are made. There is no counter checks and balances in the decision making. I therefore urge Somalia and Kenya not to attend this court. I urge Somalia and Kenya to avoid this court for the sake of peace in the Indian Ocean. I also call upon the countries that are supporting Somalia to take this case, to withdraw their support for the sake of security, because we have only one common enemy. The enemy are the terrorists killing the innocent Somalis who need our help to be liberated from these fighters who have come and gathered in the great once country, or the Pearl, one of the Pan-African countries in Africa. Thank you very much, viewers. That is my message to the world. Let's spread it. The International Court of Justice is opaque. It doesn't have appeal chamber. It doesn't have preparation chamber. It doesn't have any. Once the decision is made, the decision is final. Do we need that? We call that democratic. I leave it to you. Thank you.
Wewe kama unataka kuingiana na mambo ya ufisadi. Yeah? Tutapigana na wewe. You can be my brother. You can be my sister. You can be my closest political ally. You can be whatever you are. But you are an enemy of the Republic of Kenya, and we will fight with you. Watu ambao wataendelea kucheza na mali ya umma, mali ya wananchi, wajue siku zao zimehesabiwa na ni shida watapata. Tumesema ya kwamba kutoka sasa hatutaki kusikia mtu akitetea mwenzake, ati mtu akiiba anasema ni kabila langu, ni dini yangu ambaye inadhulumiwa. Wewe uliiba peke yako, chukua msalaba yako peke yako. Tuungane ndio tuhakikishe ya kwamba tumemaliza hiyo vita na wananchi wamepata haki yao. Au ni namna gani wenzangu?
We cannot be a country anymore where those who work hard are robbed of their profit by those who are too lazy to invest and produce. And this is why I am and will continue the fight against corruption to ensure that the fruits of our labor fill every heart with thanksgiving, as indeed stated in our national anthem. I invite all Kenyans to join us, to continue working with us in this most noble effort.
There are a number of countries in Africa that produce oil. Kenya today became one of the member states of oil-producing countries in Africa. It exported its first oil, where President Uhuru Kenyatta flagged off the oil that was got from Turkana in one of the northeastern parts of this country. But is oil a curse to Africa? Is oil a curse to the entire places where oil is found? We see in the Middle East, the wars in Iran, in Saudi Arabia, in Yemen, in United Arab Emirates. It has developed the area in Qatar. We all have many cities, skyscrapers coming up because of the proceeds from the oil. But can Africa emulate that example and bring the same oil proceeds to make sure that it makes lives better for the people, the betterment of the people of Africa and their families and their other activities? I want to see that. But I might not be able to explain why Africa always falls a victim. Are there external forces that make the oil in Africa to become sour? Is it the competition of the oil companies, Total and Shell BP and others, that come to Africa to take the share of the oil? Simply because we have no energy, ability to be able to drill the oil ourselves, refine it ourselves. It is shocking, therefore, to go to Nigeria, for example, a country that produces third in the world for oil production, has no petrol at the petrol station. Is this not a curse? If it's not a curse, what do you call it? Thank you. Viewers, those listening to this tape or this video, I want to bring to your attention that the politics of proxy wars in Africa is becoming real, and it has become a reality. I want to bring to the attention of the African states that time and time again we have fallen victims of proxy wars. We fight wars that are not ours. We fall in conflicts that are not supposed to be, don't help Africa, and they don't help our countries at all. The proxy war that is in East and Central and the Horn of Africa has been ignited, supported, equipped by France. It has been very real that the French government quietly through its company called Total Oil has been searching for resources around the triangle of East and Central Africa and the Great Lakes region and the Horn of Africa. The LAPSET was one of them, which could have been a landmark project for the people of France. They withdrew from it. The Tanga to Mwanza, they made it, they withdrew from it. The search for oil and resources through Total Oil has brought us the dangers of a proxy war in the region. It is therefore very prudent for people of the region to understand the dynamics that we are going through. For example, in Rwanda and the Burundi conflict, there is Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome to Punchline Africa Television, broadcasting from the Republic of Kenya in Nairobi. Thank you very much, viewers. You have been seeing some clips from School of African Thought, presented to you by people of the African School, the school that wants to find out what can be done for Africa. Welcome to our show at 3 p.m. East African Standard Time, Diplomatic Leaks. As you are aware, this show goes behind the enemy line. The enemy line is to find out what can be done, what has been done, what can be solved, what can we do to help Africa, to make Africa workable. Thank you very much, viewers. Continue viewing, continue watching. Let's go. Diplomatic Leaks has evidence, and this emanates from the basis of how Somalia has been behaving from the time when this conflict of the Indian Ocean erupted. Both Nairobi and Mogadishu claim a narrow triangle of about 100 square kilometers of their coast, in the Indian Ocean. The territory has got oil and gas. The dispute led to the case eventually ending up in the International Criminal Court based in Holland, in the capital of The Hague. Over decades, Somalia and Kenya have been very good neighbors. They have been neighbors in the sense that nobody in Somalia has ever raised this type of arguments until the government of President Farmajo arrives on the scene to raise these serious questions that has and this has caused quite sorry about that. This has caused quite a lot of difficulties of relationship between the two countries. Diplomatically, the deal relationship remain as African states and the African Union. Kenya has troops, a contribution to AMISOM. Kenya has contributed. Kenya has suffered dearly for their contribution and their participation in the pacification of Somalia. But this has not been viewed by Mogadishu. To the contrary, Mogadishu looks elsewhere and is looking elsewhere as a basis of their survival. They have brought in Turkey. They have trained security militias to occupy these islands, to occupy these oil blocks. They have bought sophisticated planes to take over these islands. They have not waited for the ICJ, International Court of Justice, itself to make a ruling before they go. Somalia has made preparations for war. I want to be on record for stating categorically that if we don't solve this problem of Somalia and Kenya, the maritime dispute, the Indian Ocean will be disrupted. The trade in the Indian Ocean, the Red Sea, all the way to the east, to the far east, will be affected. It is therefore very important for the people of Africa, for the people of the world, the international community, the European Union, Britain, America, those who use this service route that comes through the Mediterranean Sea, the Suez Canal, the Red Sea, the Indian Ocean, and the Gulf, the Persian Gulf, must have stability in the Indian Ocean. I have been crying single-handedly, alone, a lone ranger. I did cry again as a lone ranger, telling people that we should safeguard Libya and the Mediterranean Sea. The consequences that we see in the Mediterranean Sea today as a result of the cries of Gaddafi. Gaddafi told us, don't kill me, but kill the terrorists who are taking over Libya. Today, as we speak, Libya is becoming a butchery, where Africans are butchered, black faces are butchered, heads are cut off, because we did not listen to international cries of sparing Libya. Under Resolution 1970 of the United Nations Security Council, the enemy passed that resolution. That's why we call it behind the enemy lines. Which countries were behind the bombardment of Libya? The same countries are behind the escalation of this war between Kenya, the maritime dispute between Kenya and Somalia. It is for this that I stand and I remain very committed, very encouraged by the millions and the millions of messages that I receive on a daily basis for those who want us to help these countries to resolve the conflict without going through a retributive format of justice, but a constitutive format of justice that will bring Africa and bring peace in the Indian Ocean. Dear followers, dear viewers, it is very important today that we stand here, we look at what might happen 20 years to come now. 20 years to come, most of us will not be here. Some of us are in our early 60s, some are in the early 40s, some are in the 20s. We must safeguard the African continent from wars, from conflicts. The African Union has said it wants to resolve conflicts. The theme of the meeting of ordinary heads of state summit in Addis Ababa, just concluded last month, was to stop conflicts. But how shall we to stop conflicts when conflicts are being manufactured by the same superpowers that brought us to where Libya is today? Libya today is bleeding. The same countries that authorized the bombardment of Libya are the same countries that are siphoning Libyan oil, forgetting the human rights abuses that General Khalifa Haftar is committing against the Libyans of Tripoli. The same countries that are telling Somalia to go to the ICJ, a corrupt court, a court that has no judges, a court whose judges are very corrupt, worse than Kibera Magistrates Court, a court worse than Mengo Magistrates Court in Kampala, a court that has no checks and balances, a court whose decisions are final. There is no amicus curiae. You can't make a friend of the court. The court has only a window of non-state actors and operators to file complaints which might not reach, because the judges have to agree as to whether these complaints are genuine or not. Is this a court that the international community would like to have a dispute of two neighboring countries that have lived together, that have shared together, that continue to share together, that continue to benefit from each other's existence, for judgment to be conducted in such an obnoxious court? Viewers, if you look at the enemy behind the lines, that's my phase one of my discussion. The enemy behind the lines: Djibouti, Somalia. The current standoff between Djibouti and the African Union and Kenya, where Somalia, despite all the sufferings that we have conducted, we have endured, the bombings, the cutting of our limbs, the destruction of our properties in both Uganda and Kenya, because we want to purify, we want to pacify Somalia. We have not received good handshake from Djibouti and from Somalia. Somalia now supports Djibouti to acquire the United Nations Security Council rotational seat, which could have fallen to Kenya had we united as Africans. In this situation, I have remembered the words of Kwame Nkrumah. The words of Kwame Nkrumah ring a bell every time I talk about Africa. Africa pains me so much, to the extent that I really don't know how far we shall go to get Africa working. Africa, Nkrumah said, which was very clear, in Africa, that without a united Africa, without unity of purpose, without unity of a unified, both politically, economically, without those unified facets of life or tenets of life, Africa will find itself at crossroads. I can't agree more with Nkrumah. He was right. But because Nkrumah was not a darling of the people of the West, he was overthrown in 1965, the first coup or the second coup on the African continent. He went. Nkrumah said it is very clear, it is clear that we must find an African solution to our problems, and that this can only be found through African unity. Divided we were, we shall be weak. United, Africa could become one of the greatest forces for good in the world and in humanity. That is Kwame Nkrumah, who once predicted that if we don't unite, and you can see what Djibouti is doing right now. Djibouti is going on its own. Djibouti is dismembering of Kenya's name. Diplomatic leaks has evidence to show that both Somalia and Djibouti are switching, relying on Qatar and relying on Turkey and relying on other Middle East countries. And yesterday I told you about Turkey, political Islam, that Turkey is bringing back on the continent through incentives like we shall give you arms, we shall give you, train your people. Today, the leader of opposition in Somalia sent me this text, and very straightforward. He said, don't stop. Don't hesitate to read it, and don't hesitate to mention what he had said. The leader of opposition sent me something that I could not believe. He said, if my production team can send it, resend it here. Yeah, I got it. Yesterday and this morning elsewhere, I was telling people that I have evidence that Turkey and the Turkey government is funding Somalia with sophisticated weapons. That one I have copies of end user certificates that I have obtained that indicate the number of arms, the sizes that are being dropped to Somalia without AMISOM knowing what is taking place. The leader of opposition in Somalia said, Haramakad and Goga battalions, there are 2 battalions that are trained by and funded by Turkish government. Out of these 2 battalions, 1,000 pilots are being trained secretly in Turkey. I will tell you the location. We have the logistics and everything. They are being used for political advantage, which has caused internal conflicts within Somalia itself. They are part of the fighting that is taking place in Dumshavd, Badio, and Gedo. We call on Turkey to review its support for these forces that are killing Somali people. There you are. There you are. It's not me. He asked me. He watched my video last night. He said, thank you very much. You have come to our rescue. I'm speaking with a mind which has evidence, which is not just collecting evidence. We don't collect evidence for the sake of collection. We hammer the real points that can give us hope that one day Africa will rise and shine out of the wars, the conflicts that are taking place in Africa. I want to urge Somalia and Kenya to look at the options. What are the options left? What options can we take to put our houses together to make Africa workable? What can Somalia do to change its direction? To change the direction of taking the case to a corrupt court. I am going in the second part. I want to bring you to the second part. What is at the center of this rotten court? The rotten court of ICJ. A court with almost 3/4 of judges having houses in Qatar, in Turkey, given as presents for a ruling against Kenya. I want to be on record that I will not sleep until I bring everything to the international community, to the notice of the international community, the obstacles that kill this court, to the notes of the Secretary General of the United Nations. Viewers, the immediate manager of the ICJ is the Secretary General of the United Nations. They are responsible for what takes place. I am aware of article of chapter 8 of the United Nations Security Council of the UN, article 39 and 40. These articles are clear, and I'm standing on those both articles to write to the Secretary General of the United Nations and to the entire community of the global citizens that the case between Somalia and Kenya on the disputed territory must not and should not proceed. I will make my points very clear because I want to show you one clip which is very clear that the intentions why the Somali government is running so fast to even sell this oil, because they have taken money. They have taken money already to almost billions of dollars paid into accounts of several Somali officials. This money will not benefit the Somali local people who are dying of bullets, whose hands are being cut off by Al-Shabaab and others. Therefore, I want to make it very clear that when you see this step this clip, which was done by one of my best friends in the United Kingdom, one of the younger men that I also nurtured. Some people think only you nurture Bazungu, African. I've nurtured even Bazungu. So you will find yourself that we have been working very hard to produce this evidence for the public to know. So let's just take a minute. Let's watch that video. I don't know whether the production team is ready. Let it go. Then I will come back.
Somalia, a country scarred by more than 20 years of conflict. An Islamist militant group, Al-Shabaab, continues to stage attacks. But after decades of civil war, security is improving, and some are looking to make risky but potentially lucrative investments. This is the story of how one British company was looking to do just that and is now being investigated over allegations of corruption. May 2013. Hosting a big international conference in London, David Cameron pledges to make Somalia a foreign policy priority.
This is not just vital for Somalia, it is vital for Britain, for our national security, and for the security of our allies all around the world.
Britain becomes the first Western country to reopen its embassy in Mogadishu as a new internationally recognised Somali government announces the country is open for business. 3 months later, in August 2013, the Somali government signs a surprise agreement with a British company to explore for oil in the waters off its coast. It's the first and only such deal since Somalia descended into civil war in the early 1990s. No one knows the exact extent of Somalia's oil reserves, but some estimates put it at over 100 billion barrels, nearly half that of Saudi Arabia. But there's a problem. The United Nations and others have warned that given the continued instability and the lack of a legal framework to manage energy revenues, such deals could trigger renewed violence.
We felt that the risk was too high for the country to embark on a process of signing oil deals which could inflame political and clan tensions.
The company that secured the deal was a complete unknown. Soma Oil and Gas had no track record. At this point, the company is only 3 months old. But people have heard of Soma's chairman, Michael, now Lord Howard, former leader of the Conservative Party. Other senior figures in the company have Conservative Party connections, including Soma's founder, an investor by the name of Basil Shiblak, seated here on the right, who has given money to the Conservative Party. The announcement sent ripples through the diplomatic community in East Africa. There was a feeling that the Foreign Office had helped promote a British company to secure this deal against the advice of the United Nations, indeed against the advice of other UK government departments. A memo from the Department for International Development, dated May 2013, said that such an oil deal could, quote, lead to all sorts of irregularities that are very hard to resolve later. Getting it wrong, the memo warned, could fuel corruption or even conflict. And now, in a confidential report to the United Nations Security Council, corruption is exactly what a group of UN investigators are saying they believe occurred. We've seen a copy of the report. It says that since the middle of last year, Soma Oil and Gas has been making regular payments to the Somali Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources. Some of those payments have been dispersed to senior civil servants. The company, which is headquartered in central London, acknowledges making payments totalling nearly $500,000 to the ministry between June of last year and May of this, as part of a capacity building programme intended to cover the salaries of a small number of experts, including geologists and geoscientists. But the investigators say that of the 14 people who received payments, only 3 hold advanced degrees in the fields of geology or geoscience. The capacity building programme, they say, appears to have been used to fund systematic payoffs, to senior officials, some of whom were instrumental either in securing the initial contract with Soma or in negotiating subsequent agreements. They include the Director General of the Ministry, Farah Abdi Hassan, seen here at a meeting with Soma in Nairobi in 2014. According to the report, he received $36,000 through the capacity building programme over a period of 12 months, around 3 times his Somali government salary, which the investigators say he continued to draw. It's not unusual for oil companies working in developing countries to run so-called capacity building programmes, including offering training and scholarships for local people working in the industry. What is unusual is for senior government officials responsible for managing deals with an oil company itself to be paid salaries under such a scheme. The investigators say that in this case, the capacity building agreement was likely part of a quid pro quo arrangement, i.e. Soma, the British company, expected something in return. The report claims that Mr. Hassan, the Director General of the Ministry, suggested that Soma's contractual agreements with the government, both past and prospective, could be subject to review if financial assistance was not forthcoming. Newsnight has seen email correspondence to a lawyer working on the deal from Mr. Hassan, in which he writes,
"If Soma questions the assistance to the ministry, then so many things go to review, while Parliament is asking to ratify the SOA agreement."
SOA refers to the Seismic Option Agreement, which is the original deal. Another email, written to 2 of Soma's directors, appears to suggest that signing off on the capacity building programme, referred to as an amendment, could protect the Soma deal from official review.
Why don't you sign the amendment and return? Because I'm sure it will protect the agreement.
Newsnight understands that the investigation by the Serious Fraud Office is based on the material in the UN report. At issue is whether any offence might have been committed under the Bribery Act.
If you have circumstances where there appears to be payments going directly or indirectly to foreign public officials, and those officials have played a role in the obtaining or retaining of business or giving some commercial advantage to a particular company, that does raise a strong possibility that there may be liability.
Soma Oil and Gas says any allegations of corruption are groundless and that the company is cooperating fully with the Serious Fraud Office. They told us that the UN investigators had fundamentally misunderstood the nature of the payments. In a statement they said, "No person involved in the capacity building agreement programme was or is in a position to influence the decision to grant any commercial agreements for the benefits of Soma." They added, "Soma has always conducted its business in a completely lawful and ethical manner." During 2013, the year the deal was signed, the Foreign Office met with representatives of Soma Oil and Gas, including in some cases Michael Howard, on at least 11 occasions. Now, the FCO has previously said it gave the company no special treatment, nor did it help to negotiate the deal. But a letter from Michael Howard to Michael Fallon, then Minister for Business and Energy, dated May 2014, suggests otherwise.
"Dear Michael,"
Lord Howard wrote on Soma-headed paper,
"I'm afraid this is yet another request for a favour. I am chairman of Soma Oil and Gas Limited, an appointment I accepted with the encouragement of the FCO.
Lord Howard, who's also a shareholder in Soma Oil and Gas, wanted Michael Fallon, a senior government minister, to meet the newly appointed Somali oil minister on a visit to London. Such a meeting would, the letter continued,
make a really important contribution to relations between the UK and Somalia.
The meeting with the Somali minister never happened, and the FCO has said it didn't encourage Michael Howard to join the board of Soma. But the company told Newsnight that Lord Howard sought assurances from the Foreign Office that the company's activities were consistent with UK government policy.
The fact that he was told that Soma's proposed activities were entirely consistent with UK policy, he regarded as encouragement.
Earlier this year, a senior British source told me that there were grave concerns specifically around the role of Michael Howard and suggestions that his political influence could have helped secure backing for the Soma deal from the British government. Now, the accusations in this UN report will make uncomfortable reading for David Cameron, who staked political capital on pledging to help Somalia turn its back on violence and corruption.
If the allegations are borne out to be true, what that would show is that perhaps the international community has failed to bring about real change in Somalia, where the assets of the Somali state are being used transparently for the Somali people, and instead has led to a situation where a network of individuals purporting to act as agents of the Somali state have instead privatized control over those assets, and therefore contributing directly once again to clan and political tensions.
The money involved in these allegations, $500,000, is relatively small, just a fraction of the $40 million that Soma Oil and Gas has to date spent on its exploration program. It'll be years before they even know whether oil can be extracted. As a business opportunity, Somalia is fraught with risks and uncertainties, but the potential rewards are huge.
Thank you very much, viewers. There you are. I lay it open to you. I want to thank my friends, my comrade. We know we've taken a risk to stand by Africa. I want to thank his straightforwardness for having helped me to gather most of this information. If you have a situation of this nature, Africa, Kenya, you have this. This is what happened. And this is exactly what we are going in. Above all, and I want to repeat this, the court is headed by a Somali judge who is going to retire. I had to intervene to make him retire early. But he has planted everybody on the bench. Therefore, Kenya, is up to you. I'm not a government official in the Republic of Kenya. I don't give advice on matters of this nature, but I give my stand on matters that will affect and bring war in the region. I therefore want to tell the world that today, with the rot that is in the court, it is very difficult for Kenya or Somalia to obtain a fair judgment which will not trigger a war in the Indian Ocean. Kenya has tried to convince Somalia to drop the case and come back to African constitutive measures and mechanisms to resolve the conflict. Either we share the resources, the proceeds. Somalia has refused. Mr. Farimajo and Mr. Hassan Gharie, two of these so-called imposters on the people of Somalia, obtain money. You have seen from the clip, very documented. People have eaten money. Somalis are not gaining. The ordinary Somalis are not gaining. You know, you might think I'm crying for myself. I am all right. But I'm crying for the ordinary Somalis, where the elite group in Somalia gets money out of the oil that we don't know. They bank this money, they buy houses abroad, they buy houses in Qatar, they buy houses in the United Arab Emirates, they buy houses in Norway, and the people of Somalia don't get the money. The ICJ is a rotten court. It is the same thing I talked about ICC. Many people wrote me off. But at the end, when the cases started crumbling, I gained marks. Had I traded my name on stock exchange, I would have obtained millions of dollars. It is again, and I want to be on the record, that the ICJ is corrupt. Out of the 15 judges, 12 have visited Qatar in the following days and the following months. 4 of them visited Turkey, Ankara, last year between March and March 14th to June 20th. Another group of 6 of them had a holiday paid for by the government of Qatar in Doha between August 22nd to November 11th in different dates. 2 of them have been talking to the government in Europe, a well-known government. We've listened recordings about Somalia and about the maritime dispute. There are only 2 judges who are very clean. The 13 are very dirty. I wish you good luck. The people of Kenya, I wish you good luck for you to surrender your documents to a court that is already determined your destiny. I'm not a government official in this country. I am just a fact finder and a fact teller. The tribunal that denied Kenya must first of all have been consulted, organized, and as you know, Somalia doesn't have money. Who pays for Somalia's existence court battles? Norway, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, and Turkey. They all struggle. There's a scramble for oil in that region. These are facts, not me. They are there. If the Somalis wanted to know them, they are there. Is this money from the oil helping them or helping Farimajo and Hassan Hari? Viewers, my struggle continues. Next week, I will table these documents to the United Nations Security Council through my contacts, through the very senior officers, the office of the Secretary General. We'll have the proof of the hotels, the bookings, the timings where judges spend time in those capitals. The meetings that were conducted. Therefore, I don't see why Kenya. And if you listen to me, why should you take yourself to be slaughtered on the altar that is already determined, where your fate has been determined? I want to ask the people of Kenya, the government of Republic of Kenya, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, I have never touched something that has ever embarrassed you. And I'm now telling you, this is a problem. And that is the problem. Whether you are a legal mind, this case does not need a legal mind. This case is a mafia case planted in a court of international repute, so-called, in which corruption has been the norm of the day, like what happens in any African country on a daily basis. It is up to the people of Kenya, the people of the Republic of Kenya, to see for themselves. For me, in moving and taking my decision, is single, not influenced by the government of Republic of Kenya, but influenced by the hope of bringing peace in the Indian Ocean. That once the ruling is made, and I want people to understand my angle, I want you to understand my plight, that if we make a ruling to go either way, like we made a mistake on Libya, we lost Libya, we lost the Mediterranean Sea, we lost the trading routes, we guard our ships with extra expenses, we might bring war in the Indian Ocean. If I'm wrong, keep this clip and this video. You find it on YouTube. Ask me why I have said and taken it up. I'm not against the people of Somalia. I am against the leadership, the bad leadership of Somalia that has not listened to the African Union constitutive arrangement of making sure that Africa rises, shines, and rises again. I want to thank you and to thank everybody who has listened to me, that here we are, that one day, and one day alone, whether I'm here or not there, we must stop the war in the Indian Ocean. My brothers of Somalia, wake up. Look at the consequences of a spread war, of the only route. Those in Europe, in the metros, in France, who are encouraging Turkey to take armed insurgency, military mind setup of political Islam being spread throughout the Mediterranean Sea and now Indian Ocean, will one day remember me that I told you. Thank you very much. Coming next is a very good program. It's a program of political affairs of the Kenyan Republic called Kenya Today. I will take on the subject, but I will avail my letter tomorrow to the international community on Somalia. If you have any copies, if you want it, call us. The telephone number is very clear, 00 or 254 plus 254. 795. 638. 638. 145 Nairobi. We shall answer your call here and I put you to make a comment in the next program or any of our programs this morning up to now. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you that is diplomatic leaks as seen behind the enemy lines of today, the 4th of March the year of our Lord, 2020. God bless you. God bless Africa. Coming next is Kenya Today, the current affairs at a glance. What happened, what is happening, what will happen, what do you think of the next? Myself, with Pande, we can share the platform. Miriam has got other duties assigned. I will be here to run the show. Don't go away. This station, therefore, is for Africa, with Africa, by Africa. Ciao.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us. Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Associated to 2022, elections have dominated the political arena in Kenya for years and months now. President Uhuru Kenyatta, in the recent past, has warned people not to engage in politics, but engage in nation building and development. As much as the president has given these warnings, the people have not heeded to the warnings. The objective of improving the lives of Kenyans is the most important thing that you need to have. Kenyans need to have their lives improved. Kenyans need development instead of campaigns. Kenyans don't eat campaigns. Kenyans need health care, good housing, industries, jobs for younger generation, and above all, infrastructure to be able to transport the goods that they manufacture and the crops that they grow for export. It is therefore very important for the people of Kenya to understand that with development lacking, the country will not prosper. President Uhuru Kenyatta has emphasized again that the only thing that can bring Kenya to a world-standing nation, a developing nation, is prosperity through unity of purpose. If you are not united, you cannot deliver to what other people, other nations went through and got united. Look at Germany, for example. It had a lot of anger after the Second World War. But today, Germany gives us the loans that we share, that we Google. You Google a company in German and you get what you want. We also global their money, hammer it, eat it every day. Some of us through corruption, some of us through extended kickbacks. But Germany had more anger than any other country in the world after the Second World War. Today, it's a healed country. The only message that Kenyans can take from here is a redemption strategy. The only thing that can heal this country is redemption, forgiveness, reconciliation, restitution, and reparations. And above all, truth-telling and accountability that will bring about the word redemption, which is healing. So for now, those who want to have a better Kenya tomorrow, begin the journey now. 1 inch by inch, move together with your president. The nation will be a great nation. Thank you. Good evening, viewers. Thank you very much for coming back to both Radio Punchline Africa and Punchline Africa Television, broadcasting all the way from Nairobi in the Republic of Kenya. Thank you very much, viewers. With me in the studio today, this afternoon, to engage ourselves on the current affairs of the Republic of Kenya. The news making rounds. We shall not take much time. We shall go on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and see comments, Mr. Mpande.
Yes,
Makambe.
It is Mpambe.
Mupambe.
Exactly.
Mupambe, Mapambe. Unasemaji mzee?
Sasa kama kawaida kuna mambo mengi yamefanyika Kenya.
Yes.
Vitu vingi hasa kwenye vichwa vya habari leo ikiwa megonga.
Yes.
Vichwa vya habari. And most importantly is the case that was actually taken to court.
Yes.
By
a court. The man who wrote the constitution.
Yeah,
who lied to us.
Yeah.
The man lied that he had written a constitution. But then the constitution had loopholes. He just played money and kept money advance. That in the future then we shall go back to do what they call constructional amendment. Look for that word. Anybody who studies law, what is constructional amendment? Is to review the constitution, to look at it, find out what it is. Justice John Mativo ruled that there is no power beyond the court cannot rescind the presidential executive power. Because the president was given powers to see something which is worth the state can have. And he can declare the state of emergency anytime on anything that he feels or deems that it will bring national security problems. Thank you. And yes.
But just to cut you short, why is it that he would just wait until this time? Is it not late? Because BBI process started very...
Don't forget, he also has his own BBI line. He has his Punguza Mzigo, which he says he has rebranded to be called Matanga. Probably. What do you think?
But I think in another, also earlier on, I think he had said that he's gonna merge maybe his party in this particular process. He's supporting it fully. So I don't know why is it that it is coming to a point where again he's going to
I think, don't you think Kenya has become a litigating state? A state that litigates on almost everything. Anyway, The current news in Kenya is Mr. Ekuro Ekot lost an application, and in the provisions of standing on provisions 132 and 132 and 133 of the Constitution, he won. The president's powers of invoking any executive powers cannot be challenged by the court.
Exactly, and again he said that the petition was actually targeted on the ODM leader who had no legal mandate to negotiate the BBI and control the national issues with the President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes.
That was what the matter that was actually...
That is a very serious angle.
Yes.
Because the only person who authorized the BBI is the executive. And there's only one man who has a sword. This sword was not broken into 2 pieces. Give Uhuru Kenyatta the chance to lead this country until his term is over. Thank you. Point number 2, Kenya is expected in the coming days to start negotiating its troops' exit out of Somalia, out of AMISOM. Now, this will be done by the Minister of Defense under the auspices of CS Juma Monica Juma for the withdrawal of 2021. Negotiations are ongoing. With the withdrawal of timelines come at a time when Chief of Defense Forces, General, my great friend Samson, is expected to be exiting the military after initiating widespread reforms, improving the welfare of KDF. And now, wait, yes, the question comes, let's finish this. KDF crossed across Somalia, occupied Kismayo on 16th October 2021. The objective of a crossing over was actually to get rid of Al-Shabaab and pacify Somalia. Now, my question to you, has Somalia been pacified?
Now that's another question.
Yes.
You know, even after they went there in, was it in September in 2011? When they went there, they were actually going to tackle the issue of insecurity. And up to today, are we still having insecurity in Somalia?
Yes.
Do we have security in Somalia?
Yes.
That's another question.
The insecurity is rampant.
Yeah.
The killings continue. The only places that we have secured fully is Kismayo, where you don't see a lot of killings. But in the countryside, there are killings taking place. There are still bomb attacks in Mogadishu, where they are being killed. So we have a problem. And that problem is on our doorsteps. Yes. We hope that while negotiating, we should think of extending instead of withdrawing. My analysis of conflict resolution is that once you don't have the heart, the brain, the heart, and the stomach, Somali crisis needs 3 components. We must do the education. The boots, perhaps time has come for people to think ahead. America is doing it with Taliban. Don't be shocked that America will shock us one morning that it made Al-Shabaab leaders in Doha or Eritrea. Don't be shocked. So these are some of the things that we must be alert and find out. If negotiations with Taliban is taking place today, what can we do so that we may, perhaps, if we live, if that solution is found, will Kenya be safe? Will our hotels, we are fed up as people of East Africa to have advisory warnings coming from United States of America, who had this problem themselves.
And again, Doctor, in fact, with as much as Kenya has tried to tackle the matter of insecurity in Somalia, a question comes here. Is Mr. Farmajo, President Farmajo, ready to cooperate? Because there are many issues that have actually cut across within Somalia, and it has actually come out that Farmajo has not been ready to cooperate with Kenya. Is it the end of Farmajo? Or will it reach a time where Farmajo will reach a time where he can actually know that it is very important to cooperate in this particular matter?
Whether Farmajo or Hassan Harye, I am not interested in those guys. There is no leadership in Mogadishu. This is a bunch of thieves stealing Somali oil. I'm sorry. You hear my lips? Yeah. That's what I am. While we are on air, the statement that has just arrived, sent to me from the State House spokesperson office, is very clear. The government statement regarding the unwarranted violation of Kenya's territorial integrity, sovereignty by the Republic of Somalia. I read the statement. His Excellency the President, today, Wednesday, 4th day of the March of 2020, the year of our Lord, chaired the special session of National Security Council, ANZAC, during which press release issued by the federal government of Somalia on 5th of February 2000, the accusations by government of Somalia made by Ambassador Abukar Dahi Osman in New York on 27 February 2020, and the subsequent things are getting hot here. The subsequent unwarranted attack on Kenya's territorial integrity and sovereignty by the federal government of Somalia on 2nd March 2020 were considered. The National Security Council noted with great concern the violations of Kenya's territorial integrity and sovereignty by the Somali National Army on Monday 2nd March 2020, where the foreign soldiers in flagrant breach and total disregard of international laws and conventions engaged in aggressive, belligerent activities by harassing and destroying properties of Kenyan citizens living in the border town of Mandera. These actions amount to unwarranted attack by foreign soldiers with the intention of provoking Kenya. In keeping with our long-standing and distinguished tradition of neighborhood, in peacekeeping and peace building in the region and beyond, and in particular Somalia, Kenya acted with total restraint. The baseless accusations, therefore, and invalid allegations made by federal government of Somalia that Kenya is interfering with Somalia's internal affairs are part of the growing and persistent pattern of ill intent to use Kenya as a scapegoat and a tool to justify challenges in Somalia for political reasons. Kenya will not accept to be used in that manner. Indeed, we encourage the federal government of Somalia to stop smear campaign, commit the energy to deliver leadership, prosperity to its people. Kenya has paid a heavy price and continues to make notable investments to peace and security in Somalia, the region and beyond. For many years, Kenya has and continues to host hundreds of thousands of Somalia refugees, many of whom have sought refuge in Kenya, including the two men, I'm adding that one, including Hassan Harye and Faramijo and others. Yeah, I'm just included, but that's not what the president has written. I've included that because I have something with them. Yes, to host Somali refugees, many of whom have sought refuge from their home. Indeed, Kenya is proud. Not that the fledgling peace prevailing in Somalia today has been realized through over 30 years of steadfast sacrifices and consistent efforts with various Somali stakeholders and international partners towards lasting peace in Somalia. The federal government of Somalia in pursuit. There is a long statement. In short, further, Kenya is serious to see that the security resources in Somalia at both federal and state level rationally used to defeat Al-Shabaab, not to fight Kenya. We therefore, and I repeat, we therefore urge the federal government of Somalia to seize and desist and desist from unwarranted provocations and focus on managing its internal affairs for the welfare of her people, defeating terrorism and advancing the cause of peace and security in the region. Signed, Kanze Dena Mararo, spokesperson of His Excellency President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta of Kenya. I was talking here, I didn't know. The statement has come. Are those not the words that I told you?
Exactly.
I told you. There is a belligerent leadership in Somalia that wants to bring war in the region. And here we are. Thank you very much, Mr. President. That's the statement will be published. I hope Mr. Steve, the production team, publish that statement for people to pick copies and they read.
And actually, Dr. Mathanga, it is actually for us to applaud the security of Kenya because they have really tried. Because they went through Somalia for the mission of degrading and destroying Al-Shabaab. And they have really tried their best. They must actually have that applaud from us. It's very, very important.
Thank you very much, our forces. Our forces. Thank you. Thank you, my forces also of Uganda. Our forces in Uganda and Kenya. We have done our best. History will not judge us harshly that we did not. And I will repeat that we did not help the people of Somalia. Number 4, the differences between the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Director of Criminal Investigation. Is there any difference? No. It's fabricated. There are people, if the case is not going, it doesn't mean there is a difference. To me, that is the only thing the Kenya can do. It's the criminal justice system. I said it elsewhere today. I told Kenyans, change your criminal justice system. In Kenya, you can steal money from a bank on Friday and get released on Monday when the money has not been recovered and your bail is given. You go and enjoy this money on Zanzibar Island with your baby. Baby. This thing of Baby Catch Me. Have you heard of the song called Baby Catch Me? I love you. That's what happens here. The law does not, oh no, Miriam is not very comfortable. Yeah. The law is not very good in Kenya. A thief steals on Friday, is released on Monday, he flies to Dubai to buy the house with the money. Can Kenya change the criminal justice system? That's all. Change the criminal justice system. If you have been caught stealing government money, spend some time while your files, while evidence is being looked at by the DPP. But the DCI has a role to say there is some money missing. And it brings this case to the DPP. So if the DPP is not moving fast,
yes,
there could be a lacuna. So there is a lacuna in the criminal justice system that should change so that these two gentlemen don't quarrel. Why they are quarreling is because the people they are arresting today are being picked tomorrow again with another crime.
Exactly. And even you
look at Mr. Yes. Owino. Babu.
Babu Owino.
Look at Chesa. They can find you and kill you. Yes. They might not kill you themselves because they don't have pistols now. But they can hire people to finish you. Because the law has given them the mandate to go on the streets, damage. Change your criminal justice system in Kenya. Bas.
And even on another issue on the same criminal justice, we have seen some cases whereby the bail has been reduced. Like the case of Babu Owino.
Yes.
And the case of Rashid Chesa, the former CS.
It means someone is undermining what the DCI and the BB and the DPP are doing. The judges undermine. How do you reduce bail? In Uganda, once you steal money, you are corrupt. You spend 6 months in jail. They think about you after 6 months are over. Then you can come and apply for bail. Rwanda, the same. Ethiopia, the same. Kenya, democracy, Rome. You know what happened in Rome? Nikwambie.
Taja.
Unakumbuka Emperor Julius Caesar?
Exactly.
Kila mtu alimwambia, alisema, mimi najuana na Julius Caesar. I know Julius Caesar. Yes. If you arrest me, I will call Julius Caesar. If you attack me, I will call Julius Caesar. If you do anything, I'll call Julius Caesar. Do you know why they said too much democracy killed what? Rome. You now know where it came from.
I now know where it came from again.
Here, if you touch me, I'll call Maraga. Maraga. Touch me, I call Maraga. Touch me, I call Maraga. Sasa tuko wapi? Sindio tuko na shida?
Iko shida kubwa.
Asante sana wandugu zangu. We are mixing with Swahili today. Mjamaa huyu mtu ya Kiswahili, very soon Radio Punchline is on radio all the time. But Radio Punchline Africa will have Kiswahili program also very shortly.
Yes.
The Punchline Africa television will have Swahili bulletins almost lunchtime starting from next week. We shall arrange that you take 40 minutes or 20 minutes to read African Swahili news to the people of Kenya.
Exactly.
So there you are. There is no differences. There are no differences. 11 MPs go to Somalia. A war breaks up. Immediately they leave. They land here
on Sunday.
Can I ask one question?
Ask.
What about if they had died?
They could not complain to anybody.
God forbid.
They could not complain to anybody. Because
Yeah,
they didn't
God forbid.
anybody again. They didn't
That's
tell
the
anybody
only question. Thank you very much, viewers. Anything you want to say kwa Kiswahili?
Bila shaka mpenzi mtazamaji popote pale ulipo, na kukaribisha tu uwe ukisikiliza Radio Punchline Africa bila shaka pale online kupitia kwenye link yetu www.punchlineafrica.tv.com/radio.html, na utakuwa unaungana nami Mpambe Mkanga kwenye kipindi Daytime Express. Vile vile mwenzangu atakuwa anachukulia pale ambaye anaitwa Sean Wesonga, atakuwa anafanya kile kipindi kinachoitwa Kenya Today. Ni masuala ya kuweza kujenga taifa, kujenga Afrika kwa jumla, ili tuweze kuwa na mataifa ambayo hakika tunaweza jivunia na vile vile vizazi vijavyo vinaweza kujivunia, ili tusije tukalaumiwa kwamba tulikuwa tunaona mambo haya yakitendeka na hakuna tofauti ambayo tuliweza kuleta. Na ndio maana siku zote kupitia kwa mkurugenzi wetu wa vituo hivi vya redio pamoja na runinga, Dr. David Mathanga, ambaye ndiye mwenyekiti wa Pan African Forum iliyoko na makao yake kule Uingereza na vile vile kwenye jiji kuu la Nairobi, siku zote tunaendeleza mpango huu wa kuweza kuzirekebisha na kuzipa changamoto mataifa ama nchi mbalimbali za Kiafrika ili ziweze kujiendeleza kwa kurekebisha baadhi ya mambo ambayo hayafai, tabia ambazo zimeoza, tabia za kuiba pesa, tabia za mapendeleo, tabia vile vile za mauaji katika mataifa haya. Na yote tutakuwa tunajadili pale. Ungana nasi bila kukosa. Unaweza weka pale ujumbe kupitia kwenye Facebook yetu page ni Radio Punchline Africa, ama uweke kwenye Twitter ujumbe Radio Punchline Africa, na mambo yatakuwa bomba kabisa. Mimi ni Mpambe Mkanga. Shukrani sana kwa kunialika.
Mimi jina yangu Daktari David Mathanga, mwenyekiti ya stesheni Punchline Africa Television. This station therefore is for Africa, by Africa, with Africa. Charles, asante. Tukutane tena kesho. We meet tomorrow again. We start while the radio programs continue up to about 10 o'clock tonight. Thank you very much. Those viewers, you want Lingala music, Rumba music, South African music, Somali music,
Bongo music.
Bongo music. We play Somali music. Exactly. We play it. If you have a good number from Mogadishu, Tuma, send it to us. We shall play. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.